Good morning. This is Clarence from Trosho Law Office PC here in New York City. This is part three of our series. Now, let me go back to the rationale behind this series. It's partly primarily because there's so many issues, news that came out of the blue and that happened or pronounced overnight lately. And we felt there's a need for this. Let me give you an example. If you refer to part two, the previous one to this series, we're talking about the F1 visa, the international students. This was barely a week ago, and barely 48 hours ago, President Trump, the administration actually rescinded the announced policy requiring international students to have in-person courses. So that's a classic example of why we felt there's a need for this particular series. Now, also, things are happening so fast. Let me give you an example. It's like a movie, an action-filled, fast movie that there's actually a need for a matrix-like moment wherein we have to freeze everything, scrutinize, discern all the details to finally understand what we're facing, and then go back to the action again, knowing what kind of things we have to expect. Another example is like being on a platform where a bullet train just passed by with a 2,000 miles per hour. That is actually a blur, and you don't even know what the distinctions are, what kind of train it was, what color it has, such that you have to stop it for a moment, knowing what kind of train is moving, even though we don't know where it's gonna be stopping, even though we don't know when will be or where will be the final destination, and we don't even know as to who will be the driver of the train, especially in this election year. So there might be a new president in January, or probably there's a change of heart in the present administration. So that's the rationale behind this. So I'd like to refer you to part two and first part of this series. Now, for today, we're going to discuss another example that's fast evolving, the Deferred Action for Children Arrival. What is DACA? The reason for this was that in June 18 of 2020, barely a month ago, the Supreme Court rescinded or prevented the present administration from rescinding the DACA program. Now, let me explain to you what the decision said. First of all, the president actually has the authority to rescind or to stop the program. Second, even though it has the power or authority to rescind the program, it has to be done in accordance with law. Unfortunately, in this case, which is not an isolated case actually, this has been done capriciously, whimsically, by totally ignoring the created interests of the DACA applicants. That's number one, and without considering the impact that it may have on the DACA applicants. Now, let me backtrack a little to give you a perspective. What is DACA? Right now, there are 11 million undocumented immigrants in the United States. 3 million households have a member therein or two who are undocumented. Out of the 11 million people, 700,000 as of 5 years ago, actually, and presently it's a million kids before entered the United States with their parents. There were minors, there were children. Some of them were even babies, literally in the hands of their children while they crossed the border. In the meantime, through the years, they have established roots here, ties here, they went to school here, they became professionals, they became part of the fabric of society, and even to some extent uh, start their own families. And for the lucky few, they even became grandparents. Now, President Obama, during the prior administration, uh, acknowledged this, recognized that there's no way for the resources of the government to actually round out everybody and deport them all 11 million at times, even though that's the intention. So they decided to prioritize the removal of the undocumented immigrants. First things first, they prioritize people who have criminal records. Second, have final orders of deportation. In the meantime, these kids form a subgroup of that group. So they decided, since literally they grow up here, they decided to give them a break, wherein they're allowed to live relatively normal lives, work permit. They will not be deported. They will not be rounded up until such time when their turn comes. Now, deferred action, by the way, has been in the statute for years. Deferred action meaning it means that you could be deported, but the government does not act on it yet because there are other priorities. That's what deferred action means, and it was applied through the years. This time, they extended it to cover the kids that I mentioned, the children who came here as undocumented immigrants and who are literally here already and who are not the priority for deportation, so to speak. So the program was set by executive order because the president has the authority to prioritize deportation or removal. Unfortunately, when the new administration came in 2017, they decided to terminate it overnight. So litigations arose, and in the end, three major consolidated cases were decided by the Supreme Court, as I mentioned, later in June 18th of this year, 2020. Now, what will happen next? First thing, I would like to reiterate that this is not a legal opinion. No two cases are the same, and you have to consult a lawyer for your specific case. Second, as I mentioned earlier, there's no argument as to this. The president actually has the authority to terminate it. The only question is whether or not the president did it correctly in accordance with the law. To be specific, the Administrative Procedure Act. That means that the government should have considered the interest created by the DACA when it was issued and implemented, and the impact that it may have on the beneficiaries. Now, to put it in another context, it's just like the baker in this bakery invited all these hungry people outside into the bakery and helped themselves with the bread and food. Then, after a while, the baker decided to close it and call the police on them. It's a bad example, but that's one example literally that happens because all these kids applied, and when everyone is in the system, the government decided, you know what, I changed my mind, I'll have you deported. I will not give you the privilege anymore of staying in the country. Not considering the interest that was created by the government itself and the impact that it may have on the beneficiaries. Whether it's good policy or not, that's not my opinion. That's not within the ambit or the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. By the way, the Supreme Court decided 5-4 for the termination uh, because, as I mentioned, it was not done properly in accordance with law, with due process. Can the president change it? Yes, obviously, overnight the president could recalibrate it, rectify whatever inadequacies there were in the first order of termination, and pursue the same track, the same action against these children. Now, to give you an idea as to what DACA means, Deferred Action for Children Arrival, I'll give you the specifics. For you to be eligible for that, you must have entered the United States before the age of 16. You're in school. You don't have a felony conviction. In school, meaning high school, presently enrolled, or GED perhaps, and that when you applied, you must be between the ages of 15 and 31 years of age. And you have to show proof that you remain in the United States. And you have to, in relation to that, you have to show proof that you have been in the United States from June 15, 2007 to June 15, 2012. And that as of June 15, 2012, you are 31 years of age. Now, what that means, therefore, that since 2012 until now, through the years, there were people actually who were not able to apply for it when it was open because they were below 15 years old. But with this decision, they may be able to apply for it now, and there are roughly 300,000 more applicants who may be eligible if this program should not be terminated. Now, who are these people? In the midst of the pandemic, there are roughly 200,000 DACA applicants or beneficiaries who are actually considered essential workers, the cook, the restaurant workers, Out of the 200,000, 27,000 are actually in the medical field, nurses, doctors, medical assistants. So, what are the chances of the government actually pursuing this again? Well, it's a political call. It's a practical call. It's a health issue, probably. But then again, knowing those numbers, it has to be assessed because the impact now would not just be to the beneficiaries or immediate family members, but to the society in general. And the survey was that roughly around 70% of Americans presently interviewed, at least, have signified their intention to allow these children to stay in the country. They literally grow up here, they have become professionals, uh, they have been law abiding residents of the United States. They have not been anywhere in the world except the United States. So those are the issues that we have to deal with, which could be which could become moot in a matter of days, just like what happened in the international students issue that we covered during the second part of this series. Now, what will happen now? With this decision, the Supreme Court has given the government 25 days from the decision to pursue or to do any action to rectify or pursue whatever action it may deem necessary within 25 days. The 25 days actually lapsed 48 hours ago. So what will happen now is that the government is supposed to issue an implementing guidance or guidelines as to how to proceed. In the meantime, any potential or eligible applicant may apply, but there are several scenarios in the absence of guidance. The application could be rejected, it could be accepted and denied, it could be accepted and administratively set aside, or it will not be acted upon at all. But corollary to this is the privilege of having an advance parole where they're also allowed to travel. But AILA, the American Immigration Lawyers Association, recommended that they should not avail of this until such time that this issue will be fully resolved. Now, some people say that this series, in this series, I should smile more, which I'll try, and I should be more relaxed, which I will try harder. Hopefully, I met those recommendations or suggestions. But then again, I realized that when you're talking about subject matter where people could actually be deported, their lives could actually be disrupted, families could actually be broken, deep inside, I find it difficult to actually relax, to actually smile. But perhaps next time I will like to do so. But as I said, that's beside the point. We have to consult a lawyer. You know what's out there. Be mindful of what could happen, just like in the international student visa issue. It could change, mutate at any time. Be on top of it. Consult a lawyer, and not necessarily with us, but if you want to do it with us, our phone number is 212-374-9020 or 9747. Our email again is ctrosho@trosholaw.com. C Charlie, T Tango, R Romeo, O Oscar, C Charlie, I International, O Oscar at trosholaw.com. Thank you and good day.